Hello everyone and welcome to PCM's Webinar Friday. We are thrilled to have you with us today for our Fortinet webinar, Protecting Your Network from the Client to the Cloud with the Fortinet Security Fabric. Joining us today is Noel Perlite. We're going to get right into our main presentation in just a few minutes, but first I have a few housekeeping items. Please enter your questions in the question box on the right-hand side and I'll relay those to our speaker at the end of the presentation. We do send out a survey at the end of the webinar. Please fill it out and let us know how we did as well as topics you'd like to see covered on future webinars. You should see that survey in your inbox later today. Speaking of future webinars, please be sure to check out our weekly webinar schedule on our website at www.pcm.com/webinars/archive. We are recording this webinar. It will be available for playback in a few days. Recordings are posted to our webinars page along with our upcoming webinar schedule. There you can also find previous webinar recordings. And with that, we're going to get started with our main presentation today, and I'm happy to hand it off to Noel Perlite with Fortinet.
Thanks, George.
The screen is up and looking good.
Appreciate it. Terrific, George. Appreciate that. So, wanted to come talk to you guys today about all the cool stuff Fortinet's doing. I'm an engineer with Fortinet. Been here for 5 years. Been in the cybersecurity industry for 10, working for different vendors. But you know, Fortinet, the 5 years I've been here, our technology has really evolved, come together in a way that that is needed, right? We have a growing attack surface, and we need our solutions to work together to protect against that growing attack surface. And I'm going to go into that here in this presentation. But before I do, let me tell you a little bit of history about Fortinet. And first, let me start with the mission statement. So Fortinet's mission is to deliver the most innovative, highest performance network security fabric to secure and simplify your IT infrastructure. We're a leading global provider of network security appliances for carriers, data center, enterprises, and distributed offices. But let me talk about that from an engineer's perspective. 17 years ago, Ken and Michael Z, a couple of brothers, both engineers, sold off sold off NetScreen to Juniper. With that money, they knew they wanted to start Fortinet. Today, now we have 100 plus offices, 4,900 employees. When I started 5 years ago, we were around 2,800 employees. 100 offices around the globe, and that says a lot. I think we do as much business in the Europe region or the Asian Pacific region as we do in North America. We're also very big in the Latin America region, a very large footprint. I'm going to talk about that here in the next tidbit. Doing a lot of cash revenue. This is stock market loves us because of our growth. This is why I love us. We sold 3.4 million boxes. And so what does that mean? That means that, well, each device that we're deploying is a security solution. But not only is it a security solution, it gives us visibility to new and emerging threats. And so we use each device as a monitor. And so by us having so many devices shipped, that gives us great visibility. And again, by us having a large global footprint, great visibility around the world. Going back to the engineering, I think is this next note of 439 patents issued. When you compare us to some of our competitors, we're seeing just a fraction of those same patents. And we're talking about in the low tens. Really a significant differentiator when you're talking about a security company. And this has to do with a myriad of different things, whether we're talking about the way in which we approach our security inspection, which is going to be unique in a more full inspection mode, or the way in which that we're able to identify many variants of a known virus with only one signature. Now, what I think is missing from here is the number of 0 days. In 2000, when Ken and his brother Michael started Fortinet, they knew they wanted to do things differently. And the first thing they did was start our FortiGuard security analysis team. And this is going to be the team that's responsible for reverse engineering botnets, coming up with antivirus definitions, categorizing websites, coming up with IPS signatures. You see on the right-hand side, we actually do some more features than that. But I think a great way to measure a security analysis team is the ability to find zero-day threats. And what's a zero-day threat? Well, this is a threat that no one has seen before. They call these newer threats advanced persistent threats. They just mean they're smarter. They're looking for antivirus, engines looking for them. They're looking for VM environments to see if they're being sandboxed. Another way to refer to them is an advanced persistent threat zero-day. I think is great terms to use. Either way, the FortiGuard team has found more so than any other. And actually, let me, being that I'm in a live webinar, you can actually pull this up. So if I pull up FortiGuard zero-day here, and all you guys can Google this a little bit later, we see that the FortiGuard team here has, to this day, discovered 488 zero-day threats, a threat that no one else has seen before. We see that there's 184 zero days that they've discovered just this year. And we also can see how many of these are waiting for a vendor to come with a fix. So simply by deploying our flagship firewall, the FortiGate solution, you're able to protect from these zero days. And this is what I really like about our company, whether we're talking about the number of patents we have or the number of zero days we found. We're very transparent. Also when it comes to our performance of our solutions, which I'll get into a little bit later. But really cool stuff, and something you guys should look at as you guys are looking at a security solution is how they're being powered. What type of, are they using third parties to gain their security signatures and so forth? Are they doing that all in-house? So we've actually have a very mature security security analysis team, 18 years in the making. Ken and Michael also knew that these resource-intensive security features were going to take some extra power. We're using the same CPU and RAM as the other vendors, but we are leveraging and offloading a lot of the heavy lifting to ASIC technology. We've been developing these ASIC chips for 18 years. It takes a few years each revision to design the ASIC technology and a few $1 million of investment. Because we've been doing it so long, we're seeing a great return on that investment, and also a return on the investment of the security analysis team. With such a great ROI, we're able to really price things competitively. But let me get back to the ASIC technology. We're using two different ASICs. One is a processor, another one's a network processor. The network processor allows you to see a high throughput, a high amount of concurrent connections. The content processor will allow you to maintain a throughput, a high amount of throughput, while doing maybe an IPS inspection, maybe doing gateway antivirus inspection. We are also designing into the technology these days the ability to really see some very good SSL inspection performance. We're seeing that more than 50% of the traffic of today's networks are secure. We're finding that a lot of customers aren't doing much to inspect that secure traffic for malicious activity, or encrypted traffic, SSL encrypted traffic for malicious activity. And our appliances really make that feasible and realistic, where some of the other vendors will be crippled when they attempt to decrypt that traffic and then apply that security inspection on top of it, right? Very resource intensive. By us offloading all that, we're able to do so without breaking a sweat. And bear in mind, we were able to do that before we started designing our ASIC chips specifically around SSL inspection, and now that we're doing that specific design, we're seeing some very impressive performance, really significantly outperforming the competitors. So I talked about the secret sauce, right? We got the FortiGuard team who's doing all of our security analysis. We're powered by this ASIC technology. We started with a flagship product, right? We started in Carrier with our UTM next generation firewall, the FortiGate. Carrier has high throughput needs. It's going to be complex. That was 18 years ago. Today, we play very well in enterprise firewall. We just got listed on the Magic Quadrant for Gartner for enterprise firewall. We do very well in SMB. We still are a big presence in the carrier and ISP world. And you actually see a pretty nice division between those different markets. We also have a wide range of FortiGate solutions. They all share the same user interface and really work well for a distributed network, especially when you take into account our management solutions. We also are very competitive in different market segments, whether you're talking about healthcare or education. Our flagship product, the FortiGate UTM Next Generation Firewall, has a large presence in all these different arenas. But we go much beyond that, right? We've virtualized this UTM flagship firewall, maintaining the full feature set and putting it in a private and public cloud, being able for you to either throw that in your ESXi server and Hyper-V and KVM. We even offer our own hypervisor. Going beyond that, though, we now have significant partnerships with AWS and Microsoft Azure. We're a big partner with the VMware NSX with our VMX offering. Again, taking our full feature set of our UTM next generation firewall and being able to complement these virtual environments, whether we're talking about being able to perform IPS, protecting what you're hosting in your cloud, being able to allow you to perform a secure VPN connection to what you have in the cloud, many different functionalities, also with the complement of two-factor authentication. Every UTM next generation firewall we offers tokens, 2 free tokens for you to test with, and the ability to purchase more, both mobile and a hard token, a physical token. And it can be utilized in our VM variants. But very compelling, and I'm going to show you what that can actually look like here in a little bit. But we go much beyond that. So again, 18 years ago, we were really just focused on the firewall, but over time, we began with a real focus on security, adding to our arsenal. We created a mail solution known as the FortiMail, a website application firewall known as the FortiWeb, an endpoint solution that is leveraging VPN functionality as well as client antivirus, web filtering, and application control of the client. We offer the application delivery controller, a DDoS device. We've been actually offering SD-WAN solutions for quite a long time. For the 5 years that I've worked at Fortinet, all of our FortiGates have all had multiple WAN links with the ability to leverage other additional interfaces as so. Now we offer a very competitive secure SD-WAN solution. We've extended this security fabric out into the secure access layer, complementing our solution with APs and switches, really allowing you to extend out that security seamlessly at the access layer. We also saw the importance, right? Next generation firewall is all about that visibility and awareness. We actually have our own SIM, and this SIM is going to work with all of our competitors. So you're able to create your own SOC and NOC dashboard and have your pick your competitor here, the widget right next to our widget where you're seeing the performance status, the capture rate, whatever relevant information that we are concerned with within that dashboard regarding that competitor's performance. So what we ended up having is we saw that the attack surface was growing, that we had the ability to protect everyone from the client to the cloud, and it made sense for us to start having these devices work together. But before I get into that, part of having this very complete security solution is powering it, right? And so I power it with my FortiGuard security analysis team with the ASIC technology, but a big part of powering it too is our support. So we do offer a variety of different support options. We are unique in terms of vendors where we do offer what we call the FortiCare 360. And this is where our specialists come in and deploy the solution. We audit the environment, and then we continue to monitor things. When security outbreaks occur, we are automatically opening up support tickets and proactively reaching out to you and letting you know what has occurred and what our investigation has revealed. So a very compelling support offering from a vendor, and something I've been hearing customers asking for a very long time. Comes in at just a fraction of the appliance's cost. I think you're only paying about 10% more than the traditional support. And the best part too is when you do call into support, you have a token that gives you additional access to a higher level engineer. So beneficial in a number of ways. But we want to enable folks too. We've, about 2 or 3 years ago, we created our own security certification program, the NSE Experts, Network Security Expert. We are working with colleges around the United States. This is actually being taught at many different colleges around the United States, but it's also very accessible through our website in a self-paced mode. We offer this in different classrooms around the world. There's lots of different ways you can digest this training. Which the 1, 2, and 3 are really kind of sales focused, talking about the industry and the solution and a little bit about Fortinet. 4, 5, 6, and 7 is really where things get technical, and 4 is really where I recommend everyone start who wants a technical training with our flagship product. So I want to talk about, the motivation of us, wanting to really tie all of our solutions together, as I was talking about earlier. We saw some different emerging security challenges, right? We saw that today's networks are borderless. People are bringing their phones, they're bringing their laptops, people are VPNing from everywhere. I'm not able to deploy a firewall and simply protect my network, right? My network's everywhere now. It's over at Sue's house in Detroit, and it's over at Troy's house in Florida. And then I need to protect it wherever my network is, as borderless as it is. Slow is broken, right? We see more and more as technology advances, need to have the ability to maintain a throughput, to be able to do a security inspection, to decrypt that secure traffic and do IPS inspection without breaking a sweat, right? Without the box folding over. Especially as compliances are going to evolve, involving more SSL. It's going to be even a bigger need. And then complexity is the enemy of security. You have 100 different point solutions with 100 different panes of glass. It's a pain in the, it becomes very challenging. And so we saw that we were able, with an SMB, enterprise, telco, distributed network, provide a very compelling solution. And we saw that it made sense for us to try to tie all this in together, right? Tie in your network, your cloud, your access, right? Your wireless users, your wired users. Be able to provide a very strong endpoint client that could be leveraged at the VPN level. Integrate. We know that you have a bunch of different single point solutions, and we want you to keep those, and we want to work with those vendors and become partners with them, especially when our solutions complement each other. And I'll talk about all the different vendors we're working with here. Again, powered by my FortiGuard Advanced Threat Intelligence Security Analysis team, and giving me the visibility and awareness that we need in the next generation world with the FortiSIEM or even our FortiAnalyzer. So, I gave you my take on what this is from the engineering perspective. Now let's go into some marketing. The ideas are broad, powerful, and automated. One interpretation of broad is the broad number of broad and flexibility, the broad flexibility that we get with the fabric, right? And the idea is that again, you're going to have a lot of different solutions. There's going to be solutions that complement our solutions well. And we want you to be able to leverage those and have these devices working together. So a big part of the fabric is about sharing visibility, awareness. That could be logging, that could be security definitions. And as we go through these, right? So Amazon Web Services, Microsoft Azure, these kind of cloud solutions did not have a strong security offering. We're able to go in there and really, with a very strong security offering, be able to complement their offerings very well. When you talk about endpoint and IoT, we have a very strong solution in our sandbox. And let me take a second just to talk about that. So what is a sandbox? Is a device that's going to be used to find zero day, these new advanced threats. And we actually, the FortiGuard team, about 14 years ago, built a sandbox in-house, and we've been leveraging it for quite some time, and that is probably the definitely one of the main secrets to our success and with our number of 0 days we found. Now, we saw that with so many units we have deployed all around the world, it made sense for us to we again, having a bunch of different solutions, giving us visibility of what was happening around the world. We could even complement those, having some advanced some 0-day detection, going beyond signature-based detection. So how is a firewall different than a sandbox? I'm having a hard time kind of communicating this. Let me approach it a different way. A firewall is going to be doing gateway antivirus. It's going to be leveraging its visibility of establishing and tearing down different connections to look for malicious activity, a piece of malware. It's also using that same visibility to see where you're going when it's applying web filtering. Now, what's the problem with signature-based detection? Well, a 0-day threat, a threat that no one's seen before, is not going to have a signature created for it. So what we do with our sandbox is we have the FortiGate first use all the signatures and say, wait, is this something I know? And if it's an unknown file or suspicious file, the FortiGate works with the sandbox and sends this file over to the sandbox for further inspection. The sandbox does a myriad of things. It's going to have an extended database, and we could look further to see if this was a signature that goes back a long period of time. Firewalls are going to be lean and mean. They don't have a large amount of storage on them, so every vendor isn't able to put a large amount of signatures. Most often, you're only seeing the most common signatures when you talk about these different security vendors. The next thing we do is we do a cloud query. Is this something that we're currently working on? The next thing we do is leverage one of our unique proprietary patents where we're sandboxed in a non-specific OS way. And then finally, we spin up a virtual environment, a Windows 32-bit, 64-bit. We can even spin up a Mac OS environment. We then release the unknown file and we say, what's it doing? Is it writing to the registry? Is it writing to the hard drive? Are we seeing it communicate with known command and control centers of botnets? Are we seeing it communicate with malicious websites? We monitor everything it's doing, and we are able to tally up a score and identify if this is a true threat or not. From there, we can even have the sandbox create a signature and send that signature over to the FortiGate. So if this 0-day threat continues to try to come into our network, we can now shut it down in a more efficient way at the firewall level. Now, I described a way that you're going to have the sandbox functioning with the firewall. I can also have that functionality work the same way when it comes to my mail solution, my web solution, and even my client solution. And not only my endpoint FortiClient solution, but I could even have it function that way with some of these other third parties that we see in the fabric, like Carbon Black. So exactly how I described, I could have my Carbon Black detect a suspicious file. They're not able to truly identify it. They're going to send it to the Fortinet sandbox for further inspection. The sandbox will identify the file and then send the signature back over to Carbon Black. So from that point on, Carbon Black is now protected. This is the type of integration that we are trying to work towards and working towards successfully with a lot of these different vendors. I talked earlier about how we have a strong SD-WAN solution. I'm going to show you some of that live here in a few minutes. But we also partner up with Silver Peak, Velo Cloud, some very established SD-WAN vendors, and complement their SD-WAN solution with our security. So a lot of different ways a lot of different benefits to these relationships that we're seeing coming out of this kind of open API integration that we see kind of taking over. You see HPE here, Splunk. I think a really cool name that isn't on this list is Cisco, Cisco ACI. So Cisco's SDN environment, right, your software-defined network. These are complex, rapidly changing environments. They saw the benefit of our security being wrapped around their Cisco ACI environment and made us a partner. We were actually supposed to go out to the Cisco Live event, and the ASA team was a little bit intimidated by us and uninvited us, and I see that as a compliment. Actually, for them to feel threatened by us, which they should be. Especially, I mean, it's just silly being that they came to us to partner with them. That we're providing that security is great, I think, for Fortinet. But a lot of different partners out there. So a lot of the different solutions you have, and let me, if you don't mind here, if we go over to the web live and we look at Fortinet Fabric partners, we can actually go to the Alliance Partners page here and be able to see all the different partners of the Fortinet Fabric here. So Brocade here, Carbon Black, Centrify, Cisco, Citrix, lots of different solutions that you have in your networks today we can integrate tightly with and complement. So again, that was broad. Powerful, I talked a bit about this powerfulness, right? Whether our investment in our ASIC technology, the different ASIC chips, whether we're talking about a network processor, which is going to accelerate the network traffic, the content processor for that content inspection or SSL decryption. And then the SOC 3 is going to be kind of a optimized combo chip or system on a chip that we use in our SMB boxes. And over here on the right-hand side, you can see the comprehensive range, whether we're talking about entry-level, mid-range, or high-end, having a solution for you, and that meets these different markets and as well as a distributed network very well. Automated, I talked a little bit about this, where our sandbox is going to function in a very automated way, where the sandbox is going to find a threat and be able to send these signatures in an automated fashion over to the firewall. Now, there's a lot of questions that come out of that, right? What is the client simply waiting for the file? Can I allow the file to pass through? Can I allow the file to be held? The answer is yes, right? I can allow the file to be held. I can allow the file to pass through. What do I do if I allow the file to pass through? Well, we need to make an assumption then if we've allowed this file to pass through and we found this file to be a zero-day threat, that this client has been compromised, and we could then again in an automated fashion have the client quarantined. Go in there, take a look, reformat the client, whatever the situation calls for, and then unquarantine him. You're able to quarantine at an IP level using our endpoint. You can even quarantine at a lower level than that. Lots of different ways, though, that we are incorporating automation here, and I'm going to show you some of that here in a visual perspective. So again, with the attack surface growing, we saw the visibility we had on so many different vectors. It made sense for us to tightly integrate our different solutions, sharing threat intelligence, visibility, awareness, logging information. So what does that look like? Let me show you guys what that looks like. Bear with me, guys. This can be a little bit of an ISO. Right after this, I'm going to get into the user interface and actually show you what it really looks like. But let me first show you. So we're looking at many different networks here, right? You're looking at some different campuses, a data center, a public cloud, an operations center, a branch office. And what you just saw added in red is the enterprise firewall. So these would be different environments, right? Different size firewalls we could fit in here very well, right? Cloud security. I talked about all the different cloud offerings, public and private cloud offerings we have. On the public side, we see that we're leveraging the Amazon AWS in this picture, a couple of just simple virtual firewalls. And then over in the data center and private cloud, we're leveraging that VMX in that private cloud, right? So that's going to be the virtual firewall for VMware's NSX. Again, taking it another layer, we're able to get into some advanced threat protection. This is where we're leveraging our endpoints. We've also deployed some sandboxes for sandboxing, some mail solution, a web application firewall to protect against a hosted environment. And what's really cool about our sandbox, when you start looking at some competitors like FireEye, they're not going to be able to support a distributed network. Our sandbox, if sized correctly, can support multiple networks, a distributed network, and really inspect traffic in a lot of different ways, where FireEye tends to be one one-trick pony. I could have my sandbox doing mail inspection, network inspection, client inspection, URL inspection, file submission, really a wide variety there. Adding one more layer, we're looking at application security, right? I want to get some cloud access security inspection going. And then finally, the last layer here is going to be that secure access. So here we're seeing some APs and some switching. Again, just making it very easy for us to extend this wire or the security seamlessly out to that access architecture. So what does it look like? Well, visibility and awareness is big. I keep talking about it, right? It was big with next generation firewall. It's even big as we see the Fabric platform competitions begin. What we're doing is we are investing a lot into making it very easy to take a quick glance and be able to see what exactly is going on my network. This is a custom dashboard I created representing a NOC. A NOC is a network operations center, right? SOC, a security operations center, two words we're hearing a lot more these days. And you'd have this up on your LCD screen that's mounted on the wall, and I'd be looking for my vulnerability summary. Basically, this is this is on my firewall, but this is a visual that you'd normally get off of a SIM, like a Splunk-like interface. Now able to be seen on our firewall. Also able to be, we're fully Splunk integrated. Integrate us with Splunk, and we could use the Splunk dashboard to display the same information. You could use the RSIM and be able to display even more comprehensive information. Again, going deeper into visibility and awareness. Part of the Fortinet Fabric, all those different devices, is us creating proprietary ways for those different solutions to communicate. What we have is telemetry, Fortitelemetry, if you could imagine we named it that. What this allows us to do is create a physical and logical topology, understanding where different devices are relative to one another. And not only that, but also an understanding of data consumption and saturation. What you're seeing here is a distributed network with different firewalls, maybe even a couple of internal segmentation firewalls, siloing up different networks. And behind those, what you're able to see is different users and the amount of data they're consuming. So the larger the circle is going to represent the more data that user is consuming. Able to visualize this in a physical and logical topology. Also, if we were to see saturation at the link level, that would be indicated here in these lines. So again, going to this visual representation that allows us to see what's going on our network very clearly. From there, I could even take a look at individual sources on my network, and even create a threat map, seeing threats in real time. Now, we're not seeing any threats right now on this guy that I took a screenshot of, which is a good thing, but had we done so, we'd see activity here as well as a visual representation beyond the description of the activity. I talked about secure SD-WAN. Again, we've had multiple WAN links on our solutions. Every solution, whether you're talking about our SMB appliances all the way up to our chassis, for the 5 years that I've been at Fortinet, and even before my time. We complement, we work very well with 3G, 4G modems, and can easily integrate that into our SD-WAN configuration. We even offer a breakout box for 3G and 4G modems known as the Forti Extender. The Forti Extender allows you to take that 3G, 4G modem and place it where you're going to get the best reception and run a Cat5 cable back to your firewall. Then I could leverage it in a number of different ways. Right now you're seeing the configuration of an SD-WAN link where I'm just selecting the different members. In the scenario I just described, the 3G, 4G modem would be a member here. And I would come in and I would create rules leveraging the different connections that I wanted to use or the failover scenarios that I wanted to configure. I am able to configure these WAN links to be utilized as a failover, to be able to be utilized simultaneously. We even have a solution that could take it even further, allowing link load balancing of inbound requests into your network by leveraging authoritative DNS. I wanted to show you guys a policy, but instead of showing you on there, let me show you live. So what we're looking at right now is one of our SMB appliances. This is the 60 series. I usually have around 25 devices on this when I start enabling security feature sets. Now I am a tech geek and I have a smart home here, so I do have a lot of devices. What would be a good way to kind of show you that? If we go into the DHCP monitor here, you can see I do have like a lot of Sonos devices, some Haiku fans. So I've exceeded my 25 device list here. But I wanted to show you this because this is kind of cool. We're able to look at the different devices and identify different devices on my network. And I'm able to actually create policies based on those devices. And that's actually what I wanted to come in here and show you, is the policy creation. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to create a new policy. When I create a new policy, I give it a name. This is just an identifier. I'm going to create an outbound policy for you guys, something that's familiar. So I'm saying when traffic's coming to my LAN interface, going out to my WAN interface, here I can create a source, so it makes sense for me to use my internal subnet. I want to always be explicit as possible when creating firewall policies. I want to take this firewall policy even further, though. I want to make it for, I've integrated to Active Directory. You could also integrate to a Radius server, LDAP. I could even leverage local users and groups. So here I'm saying students who are coming from this subnet, and again, I showed you that device identity. I could take it one step further. We saw that when I was coming on board 5 years ago, BYOD was very prevalent. We saw people were bringing their own devices, and we needed the ability to really identify devices and instill some control. And so very easy to do so. And creating a very explicit rule here for students on iPads and iPhones coming from the 10.10.10 subnet. Let's just complete this policy out here. Destination address, usually you would always select all, but I'm going to take this opportunity to show you guys the geo objects that are very easy to create in this. Actually, they're already created. I just have to identify them and leverage them. Let me show you how easy that is. I want to come in and I want to create a new address, and this is going to be of the address type geography. And then I just come in and select a country. So I'm concerned, I could look at a country or even a region. So let me just do the Asia Pacific region. I know I don't have any vendors out there. And I know that I've had a problem with folks, hackers from China coming in and hacking me, right? So now I've created a new object, very easy to manipulate here for Asia Pacific region. Got a little sidetracked there on the example, but I'm really excited when it comes to dynamic objects and things like that. An engineer kill me. So we're now down to service types, right? This is not layer 7. Right? These are more traditional layer 4 service protocols. If I wanted to be granular, maybe I'd say HTTP, HTTPS. I'd also need to allow DNS, right? So these are students on iPads and iPhones, right? So they're not going to need any other protocol. But be cognizant that's not layer 7, and that masquerading can occur when you're not doing layer 7. But I have the ability to do that. The ability to enable and disable NAT at the policy level is powerful. This is where I create an outbound source and I have the policy. This policy's traffic leaving as a unique IP address. Here we can see it's using the outgoing interface, and I could have it use an IP of my IP pool. And this is really kind of the very key differentiator. There's no universal on and off switch when it comes to security, but instead we enable it at the policy level. So now again, I'm thinking about my students on their iPhones and iPads, and so I want to enable some antivirus, I want to enable web filtering, but I want a very unique profile, right? And so I've created a student profile here, and I can show you guys that here in a second. Probably some application control, maybe blocking some high-risk applications, or the signatures that would be involved with high risk, right? That could be circumventors, proxy, botnet, command and control center, communication, all that good stuff. Even IPS. I could maybe do a client-focused IPS, protecting a client against known vulnerabilities. Maybe there's some window vulnerabilities that are a little more prevalent right now, and I know that they're going to be on Windows machine. Now, that doesn't make sense in my iPhone and iPad example, so maybe IPS isn't a good thing. But the rest of the things make a lot of sense. And so now I could click OK. And so what I've done here is I've created a very explicit policy for students on their iPads and iPhones, applying a very unique web filtering and antivirus profile. Now, really quick, just to take that the inverse way, I could say traffic coming into my WAN, going out to my DMZ, going to my hosted servers, right? Imagine now this is my DMZ subnet. In this scenario, I only have well, I could allow everyone in here. I'm sorry. The source would be the folks coming to visit my website to my DMZ. So here, they're going to be from the USA. And these are going to be my DMZ subnet. Here, I can always allow this. And again, now I don't need DNS since I'm hosting traffic, and it really makes sense just to allow this to be an HTTPS. Maybe natting doesn't make sense in this scenario. And then also, I probably want to change some of these things. I wouldn't need antivirus. I wouldn't need web filtering. I wouldn't need application control. I would need IPS, and I want to protect my HTTP server that I'm hosting out my DMZ. So really beneficial to have the ability to pick and choose what security profiles you're leveraging at the policy level, and by taking the time to create some unique profiles. Now, I want to allow some time for some questions, but I really want to just quickly touch on these security profiles here. Let's do web filtering. It's pretty intuitive. You're able to select from different profiles in the top right corner. Here's the student profile that I created earlier. We're doing what everyone else is doing when it comes to web filtering. We are putting domains into a category or subcategory, think of them as containers, and allowing or blocking at the category or subcategory level. Once you've kind of massaged those into place, you would come in and allow or block at the, you'd create exceptions at a domain level to these categories, these FortiGuard categories. Again, so the student profile that I've created is going to be a little bit more restrictive. You're going to see a little bit more stuff blocked, and the teacher's profile a little bit more permissive. But very easy to come in, create unique profiles, and then have a couple of different policies applying these profiles, integrating with Active Directory and LDAP. While I'm here on the security profiles, though, it's a good time for us to review a lot of the security feature sets of the firewall. Antivirus, so this would be gateway antivirus, web filtering, DNS web filtering is even a lighter version of web filtering. Application control is going to be a layer 7 inspection. You can use it 3 different ways. You can use it actually for a more granular form of web filtering. Traditional web filtering is absolute. You're either allowing or blocking the website as a whole. Leveraging application control, I can allow just a portion of the website. Maybe, here, let me show you a real example. Facebook video. I'm blocking social media as a category, but I'm allowing Facebook and Facebook video play. So now users are able to go to Facebook. They can't like, chat, or all the other silly things you're doing on Facebook, but they can get to the website and they can view videos. So the ability to really get granular with the web filtering. Another thing I can do is I can block applications like Skype, for example. Another form of leveraging application control is manipulating the underlying protocols, SSH, HTTPS, HTTP, I could allow, I could block, I could traffic shape at a network protocol level. Application control, pretty flexible, very flexible, very powerful. Cloud access security inspection, this is a new buzzword. This is between everyone on the webinar and me. Please don't go around telling everyone this, but this has been around for years. These are just application signatures focused on the cloud, and now people are creating dedicated solutions just for this. We integrate it into our firewall, but we also have a cloud service that offers some of the same benefits, the ability to manipulate your communication to these larger clouds, and be it, taking the action of monitor, blocking, allowing, or even traffic shaping too. IPS. Intrusion protection, not to be confused with IDS, intrusion detection. IPS actually takes action, so you always want to go with IPS over IDS. What is IPS? Well, there isn't perfect code. Microsoft's not writing perfect code. Adobe's not writing perfect code. She's not perfect. And folks are using all these things, right? When you're walking around with your desktop, you're running Windows, Microsoft. When you're hosting an environment, you're using Adobe, and Apache to host web servers. All of these things are going to be vulnerable. Maybe you're running outdated code that isn't being patched. Maybe there's a 0-day that no one's found yet. All of these are going to be different scenarios that you can benefit with our solution. We can have just the default IPS profile in place, receiving the updated IPS signatures, and you could protect yourself against the WannaCry vulnerabilities that we recently saw. Users who had FortiGates in place had with the default IPS signature profile in place, protecting their policies, had very much a set it and forget it kind of scenario, which is very rare for a security solution. So whether we're talking about protecting vulnerabilities of a server or vulnerabilities of a client, we're doing it at the gateway with our flagship product, the FortiGate IPS. Data leak protection, this isn't at the client level, but at the network level, I'm able to monitor sensitive data coming and going from my network. And let me show you what that looks like. And here we're seeing a unique string of characters like a credit card number or social security number. I can also do a file size, watermarking individual files, and looking over the network protocols, right? HTTP and mail we see over the web and over email. We could monitor the sensitive data, leveraging the visibility that this client has at the perimeter of the network, establishing and tearing down those connections. I'm running short on time, so I don't want to go through everything here, but I did want to show you very feature-rich when you start talking about our security profile. Going beyond that, though, IPsec and SSL VPN, leveraging IPsec using client-to-site and site-to-site VPN. We have wizards that make it very easy. Here we're seeing site-to-site VPNs, right, between two FortiGates. Here's between a FortiGate and a Cisco. When you start talking about client-to-site, we can leverage our own VPN client, our endpoint. You can also leverage the native iOS, native Android, native Windows. You have an old Cisco guy who doesn't want to give up a Cisco client. You could use a Cisco client to create a client-to-site VPN to the FortiGate. The IPsec VPN is very standardized these days. You can even create your own templates here. If you're creating Juniper VPNs all day, you create your Juniper template and boom. You can leverage that template very easily. Just configure phase 1, phase 2, and security settings. A couple more things I want to show you guys. We have tokens, right? Soft and hard tokens, mobile and hard tokens. I can associate these with users and then leverage those users for two-factor authentication to access the VPN, to administer the firewall. Lots of different ways you could use two-factor authentication, and we make that very seamless. We're getting a lot of the RSA customers coming over to us because we don't have the renewal cost they have with our tokens. We have our own dedicated authentication solution, which would be for thousands and thousands, large scale two-factor authentication, more advanced authentication integration, certificate-based authentication, lots of different functionality of that dedicated authentication solution, but still a lot of that functionality we have right here. Also a Wi-Fi and switch controller. Right now I have 3 different APs on my 61E. I have 2 different SSIDs. I could have 10 different SSIDs if I wanted. So really cool in being able to extend security out to wireless and power all of my devices you saw that I had. You know, I wanted to leave 15 minutes for questions, but we do have 10 left. George, you still with me?
Of course, no. We do have a couple questions for you whenever you're ready.
Oh, I'm ready.
All righty. The first question I have for you is the attendee would like for you to talk about the SSL decryption and how it's implemented via your web filter. And also, who do you use for your web filtering?
So when it comes to who do we use, we're doing all of our own web filtering internally. The FortiGuard team is categorizing all these websites, so much so that if I wanted to, so here we are at the FortiGuard website, I could engage them here through the web filtering portion and ask them to recategorize websites. So here I'd go to Contact Us. I'd say, so here's all the different options you have, right? So these are going to be all the different, you could see here the different tasks they do, whether they're creating an antivirus signature, whether they're submitting an application for a new application signature of a new application to be created, or recategorizing a website. All this can be done and is directly communicated to them via you guys. So SSL inspection is huge. I talked about that. How do we incorporate that? Well, if we take a look, you saw that I had different web filtering profiles. Nowhere in here did we see SSL being mentioned, right? I'm simply allowing or blocking at the category level. The way we'd allow or enable SSL inspection is by going to the security profiles SSL inspection. Here I have a couple of different ways I can enable SSL inspection. Certificate inspection or deep inspection. Now, it doesn't sound intuitive, but deep inspection is actually certificate-based inspection, and you can actually see the certificate I'm using right here. This is going to be the default certificate that comes with the FortiGate. This is considered insecure, right? You'd want to purchase your own certificate from your own CA or create your own certificate in a secure way. However, this is available if you needed to do some testing or needed to get something off the ground quick. So what you do is in a deep inspection scenario, that is where the firewall is doing a man in the middle, no different than it normally does. But when it does so in that over that secure socket layer, there's usually a certificate error. By us providing a certificate or you being able to upload your certificate here, we could then install that certificate into the client, and when that man in the middle occurs, to inspect that secure socket layer, there is no certificate error because we now have a trusted certificate inspection occurring and can overcome these things. Now, what does that mean? That means that now I would come over here and I would select what ports I wanted to inspect, right? I can inspect all ports. I could select individual protocols, right? When we're talking about simply web filtering, I could just have 443 enabled. Probably a more secure way would be inspecting all ports. And not only is SSL inspection being applied, this SSL profile being applied to web filtering, it's also being applied to application control, IPS, all the different security feature sets, and all the places that truly need security inspection over the secure socket layer. So deep inspection is going to be the most comprehensive way to really be looking in files, being able to see them from beginning to end, scan files from beginning to end in the way that we prefer to inspect traffic, which is what we call proxy-based inspection. There is another way, certificate inspection, and again, I apologize that it's kind of confusing, but this is simply looking at certificates and identifying based on certificates, not doing that true man-in-the-middle inspection mode that I described earlier. So 2 different ways to inspect traffic. One much more comprehensive. There's still challenges though. I think you're seeing Google kind of doing some silly stuff with certificates. making it more and more challenging for vendors to do some SSL inspection. However, out of all of them, our solution is definitely top-notch. George, what's our next question?
I think it relates to the last one because it goes, does this solution support a single or shared rule base to all firewalls?
A single or shared rule base to all firewalls. You know, I think maybe they're talking about management. We have a management solution, so if you did have a distributed network, you had multiple firewalls, it would be very easy to, we have a single pane of glass where you configure one rule and push this rule out to multiple firewalls. I apologize, I might not be interpreting your question correctly. What do we have next, George?
How does your licensing work?
Great question. We have a lot of features, and we want to make it easy for our customers to leverage those features. So we have what's known as a bundle. You purchase the bundle. The appliance is yours to keep, and the bundle will also come with support, as well as the security definitions. Our support's known as FortiCare, and our security definitions is FortiGuard. After the 1, 2, or 3-year contract that you've purchased the bundle for, you would then be looking at the renewal costs of your FortiCare and FortiGuard. The functionality does continue to work, though. Even if you did lapse, you'd have your advanced routing, wireless controller functionality, VPN controller functionality. Your security definitions stop updating, so it is definitely a risk from that perspective. You use your lifeline to support, which I'd never want you to do, and the access to the firmware repository. But I wanted to communicate that your appliance is not going to break if you forget a couple of days after your bill is due. But a very refreshing approach when you're looking at a quote to see just a single line item and know that all those features are there. So a very, again, refreshing approach to a bundle with a very feature-rich appliance.
All right. And how about provisioning? Can you plug in a firewall and get DHCP and it will grab its config and reboot with a static address, etc.?
100%. We have a few different ways of provisioning solutions. We have cloud provisioning that functions just the way you described, George. You would configure at the serial level, plug in the WAN link, it would go to DHCP, reach out to the mothership, and pull down that config based on serial. But we have the management solution can operate in a similar way. A few different options, but yeah, very much so, just as the way you described with our cloud provisioning known as FortiCloud Provision. If you did want to do provisioning, you need to buy that SKU when you purchase the firewall SKU, and it isn't a high cost SKU. It is very inexpensive. We just need to be able to track which solutions are going to be provisioned and which ones are not.
All right. No, it appears that that was the final question coming in.
Terrific. Well, thanks, George. I appreciate you giving me the chance to talk to the PCM customers. I am one of the Fortinet engineers focused on PCM, so if you guys are interested, I'm happy to spend some more time talking to you about our solution. I can also introduce you to some of our local reps and feet on the ground in your neighborhood. They could take you out to lunch and all that good stuff. But thanks again, George, for having me out.
All right. No, thank you very much for that great presentation, and thank you all for joining us today. Be sure to check out www.pcm.com/webinars for our on-demand recordings and our upcoming webinar schedule. Thanks again for joining us, and we hope to see you again for future webinars. Have a great day.